Part 25. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 241. Chapter 241 Chapter 241 How Much I Love Ye 11. Zhao Huiyan stood in front of her after getting off the car. When you were young, your fifth uncle asked me to take you home, so you don't have to go to school. Zhang Xiaoxi really hated Fu Chenxiu's approach. Although she didn't want to take the exam, she was extremely disgusted by his forced and unilateral behavior of making decisions on her. Naturally, she would not get in the car with Zhao Huiyan. Uncle Zhao, go and tell fifth uncle that I will go back after taking this exam. Zhao Huiyan's temples twitched and he had a headache. He knew this was the case. Fu Chenxiu was domineering and Zhang Xiaowan was really not easy to be a middleman. In addition, he had just come to the school directly from Guanyang, so he was still worried about Zhang Xiaowan. Do you have a dual personality? I could only coax the ancestor. When I was young, Uncle Zhao knew that you didn't want to take this exam. The recommended places for this exam are for the mathematics department. I heard Niu said that you like the forensic medicine department. What's the matter? Zhang Xiaoxiu's face tightened and his voice was cold as he looked at Zhao Huiyan. Zhao Huiyan smiled to please a certain little ancestor. When I was young, Uncle Zhao had a party the day after tomorrow, and Yi 11 would go. Jiang's heart fell in love when he was young. Last time he danced with his idol and took a group photo. He was dragged away by the boss even after saying goodbye properly. It was really a bit rude. It doesn't matter whether he passes this exam or not. He is taking the forensic medicine department. She was still completely sure. Seeing her heart move, Zhao Huiyan began to sympathize with Fu Chenxiu. The boss's status in his heart was not as good as that of an idol when he was a child, but now his purpose is to coax the little ancestor into the car. When I was a child, Yi 11 praised me in front of me. You dance very well, and I want you to be a backup dancer for his single. I won't go to the exam. Uncle Zhao, you have to make sure that I can dance with Yi 11. Zhao Huiyan. Agreeing so readily, this is how much I love Yi 11. Promise, Uncle Zhao promises to take you there. Well, if I can't go, Uncle Zhao, you should know my temper. I have left evidence. Zhang Xiaoxiu shook the phone in his hand. Zhao Huiyan. He is too difficult. These two masters are not easy to serve. If the boss finds out about this and becomes jealous, ugh. Miss Zhang walked up to Fu Chenxiu's car, glanced at Fu Chenxiu who was sitting in the passenger seat, curled her lips and opened the back door. As soon as she got in, she smelled a strong smell of alcohol and couldn't help but frown. Open the car window. Zhao Huiyan got into the car and looked at Zhang Xiaoxiu, who was sitting behind him, with a sad face. Xiaoxiu, why weren't you in school just now? Zhao Huiyan actually went to the school to look for Zhang Xiaoxi. Chu Hanyu said that she had not come back yet, so he waited for her in the car for a while. Zhang Xiaoxiu replied with resentment, Uncle Zhao, don't you know that I was left in the middle of the road by my fifth uncle? If I hadn't met Secretary Mo, I'm afraid I wouldn't have arrived at school yet. Zhao Huiyan glanced at someone sitting in the passenger seat and swallowed. He seemed to have asked the wrong question. Uncle Zhao, you think that if I, a girl as beautiful as a flower, encounter any danger when I am left behind, should I blame the person who threw me away? Zhang Xiaoxiu stared at Fu Chenxiu angrily. The meaning of this sentence is obvious. It is to scold someone, and it means something. Zhao Huiyan smiled dryly. When I was young, Uncle Zhao remembers that you learned Sanda, and you have no problem dealing with ordinary gangsters. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 242. Chapter 242 Chapter 242 means something. Uncle Zhao, you mean that I deserve to be in danger? Zhang Xiaoxiu looked at Zhao Huiyan with crooked eyebrows. but the smile in his eyes was a bit scary. Zhao Huiyan. He seemed to have stung a hornet's nest. He had no idea that Fu Chenxiu actually left Zhang Xiaoxiao halfway. He couldn't believe it at all, because someone was Fu Chenxiu's eyeball. This hurt. How many years? When I was young, Uncle Zhao dared to use his head to guarantee that if you were in danger and no one came out to save you, Uncle Zhao's head would be used as a ball for you to kick. Zhang Xiao raised his eyebrows and smiled, his white teeth reflecting in the sunlight, which was a bit scary. Uncle Zhao, then take off your head. I followed a car on the road. We passed each other and my feet were bruised. As soon as Zhang Xiao finished speaking, someone in the passenger seat who had closed his eyes suddenly opened his sharp eyes and stared at Zhang Xiao. Where are you injured? Humph. Zhang Xiao hummed twice and leaned his head against the car door. Ledoux ignored Fu Chenxiu and treated him as nothing. Zhang Shishi didn't speak, and the car swayed. Zhang Shishi's calf was controlled by a strong force. A few seconds later, someone's cold voice said, with your eyes so big, you don't even know if there is a car. Zhang Xiao shrank his feet and looked level with the boss, without fear at all. Uncle Wu, didn't you throw me on the road? Why are you doing this now? No need. Fu Chen's face was straightened and tense, and the two halves of his thin lips were pressed into a straight line. If you look carefully, you can still see the protruding muscles on his arms. Zhao Huiyan took a breath of cold air in front of her. This little ancestor had completely stabbed someone's heart. Someone's heart was probably bleeding right now. The atmosphere in the car was stiff, and Zhang Xiaoxiao felt unhappy. His translucent eyes stared blankly at Fu Chenxiu. Fifth uncle, you better send me back to your old house, otherwise you won't know how to send me back next time. Throw it there. Zhao Huiyan. If the little eldest ancestor throws him away again, I'm afraid he will throw himself away first, so don't put a knife in his heart again. Go to the hospital. This was said to Zhao Huiyan. Zhang Xiaoxiao knew that the wound on his foot was just a scratch and there was no need to go to the hospital. He also said, if you don't go to the hospital, it will heal on its own. Zhao Huiyan held the steering wheel, feeling bitter in her heart. Who did she listen to? Uncle Zhao, if you go to the hospital, believe it or not, I will jump out of the car right away. Zhao Huiyan, who happened to turn the steering wheel, immediately straightened the steering wheel and asked Fu Chenxiu for help. Fu Chenxiu's face darkened, his knowing eyes stared at Zhang Xiaoxi, his tone was restrained and not so tough. Xiao, obey me and go to the hospital. Int. Fu Chenxiu lowered his eyebrows, not wanting to get angry with someone, but someone just wanted to offend him, so he sighed, when I was little, Uncle Wu apologized to you. Uncle Wu was wrong and shouldn't have left you behind. I beg you, go to the hospital. Not only did the boss not get angry, but his attitude was such that Zhang Xiaoxiao curled his lips and said, I can handle the minor injury myself, so there is no need to bother the official uncle. No. Fu Chenxiu refused. I just won't go to the hospital. People like Zhang Xiaoxiao are soft-spoken people, and if you are mean to her, she will be meaner than you. Zhang Xiaoxiao, do you have to make me angry? Fu Chenxiu gritted his back teeth and stared at someone. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 243. Chapter 243. Chapter 243. Trapping Yourself. Zhang Xiao was also angry. Why did she insist on making him angry? He was clearly the one who was angry first. I just don't go to the hospital. Such a small wound will heal on its own. What are you making a fuss about? Fu Chenxiu's cold brows twitched. This little girl really needed to be dealt with. She slapped someone on the with a few slaps and said with a tough attitude, "Go to the hospital." "Don't go to the hospital," Zhang Xiao shouted with red eyes and a cry. Zhao Huiyan watched the relationship between the two of them with a nervous look. When the boss was a child, this girl had always been the kind of person who would take advantage of others rather than take advantage of others. If you and she are like this, it's not bad even if they are not enemies. We got along very well in the past. Why has my IQ dropped sharply recently? Zhao Huiyan did not listen to Fu Chenxiu this time and drove the car towards Nangziyuan. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at the direction in which Zhao Huiyan was driving and felt better. He even deliberately said, "Uncle Zhao, you still love me the most." Zhao Huiyan smiled bitterly. This little girl did it on purpose. Although they were nice to her, they were far behind compared to Fu Chenxiu. Fu Chenxiu's stern face darkened again. This heartless little thing. Zhao Huiyan sent the two giant Buddhas in the back seat to Nangziyuan and wanted to leave, but he knew that the two people there would not give him a chance at all. "Uncle Zhao, my feet hurt, please carry me upstairs." Zhang Xiaoxiao sat in the back seat and looked at Zhao Huiyan. "Zhao Huiyan. Little ancestor. How long are you going to trap me? The person carrying you is right next to you. When I was young, Uncle Zhao injured his hand while filming 2 days ago, so let the boss carry you up." Zhao Huiyan almost had her hand tied with a plaster. Zhang Xiao raised his eyebrows, stared at Zhao Huiyan, and threatened him openly, "Uncle Zhao, do I know who lives there? Do you want me to call Grandpa Zhao?" Zhao Huiyan. Why does everyone know about his trivial things? Send a signal for help to Fu Chenxiu. Boss, you have to help me. Otherwise, you should be jealous again if I carry this little girl back. Fu Chenxiu frowned, stared at the little girl who deliberately angered him, and said in a low voice, "Do you want me to carry you back, or do you want to walk back by yourself?" Zhang Xiaoxiao puffed up his cheeks, glared at Fu Chenxiu, ran out of the car and disappeared from their sight. Zhao Huiyan felt bitter in her heart as she watched the little girl who had been tricked disappear quickly. "Boss, be gentler, you know the little girl's temper better than we do," Zhao Huiyan said to someone passing by her. Fu Chenxiu frowned, then nodded. Mo Zhangxiang drove back to Chu Hanyu's apartment after meeting Zhang Xiaoxiao, and happened to meet An Nangxuan. An Nangxuan looked at her and briefly chatted with her. "Secretary Mo, are you happy at work, Mr. Fu?" Mo Zhangxiang kept a smile on his lips. "It's very pleasant, the master takes good care of me." "Luo Yi speaks highly of you, Secretary Mo, you have a bright future." "That's what the master taught me." Well, Mo Jiangxiang's attitude was modest. And Nangxuan stared at this woman who was 70% or 80% similar in appearance to Zhang Xiaoxiao. "Secretary Mo, do you believe that people who look similar in this world are actually related by blood? We yellow people all have the same ancestor, so we are naturally related by blood. It is not strange to look similar, just like me and I when we were young, but we are not related by blood." Mo Zhangxiang answered An Nangxuan calmly. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 244. Chapter 244. Chapter 244. This is a family matter, so outsiders naturally don't know. And Nangxuan curled his lips and smiled. "Secretary Mo and Xiao are indeed the most similar looking people I have ever seen who are not related by blood. Perhaps this is the fate I told when I was young. If she hadn't saved me, given me a place to live, and allowed me to work at Fu's, and met the master, she would have been my lucky star." Mo Zhangxiang spoke impeccably. "That's Secretary Mo too. You can stay in the Fu family only if you have strong learning ability. I just don't know what school Secretary Mo graduated from." And Nangxuan probed appropriately. "I also want to know which school I graduated from, Mr. An. If I have a memory, then I can go find my family, and I don't have to live in Miss Chu's house now." And Nangxuan apologized. "Secretary Mo, if you don't mind, I can recommend a doctor for you. You can go to him for treatment to see if you can restore your memory. Mr. N, are you talking about the official doctor? And Nangsuan nodded. It seems that girl has already told you when we were young. Yes, I will go to the doctor when I have time. Thank you, Mr. N, for your relationship. If Mr. N has nothing to do, I will go back first. Excuse me, and Nangsuan made room for her so that she could open the door. Mo Zhangxiang opened the door with the key, and spoke to An Nangsuan before pushing the door. Mr. N, I just sent my child back to school and saw Miss Chu and Mr. Chen together. I would like to ask, Mr. Chen and Miss Chu are now lovers? No. So Miss Chu is still single. Last time I went to Yanqing with my master, the grandson of President Sun seemed to want to pursue Miss Chu. He was afraid that Miss Chu was not single. After all, Mr. N, you were engaged to Miss Chu before. Mo Zhangxiang said. And Nangsuan's brows twitched fiercely. Why didn't he know that after he and Chu Hanyu broke off their engagement, someone became a favorite, and all the people who wanted to pursue her lined up in Yanqing, and his words were stained. He said with a vicious tone, Secretary Mo, I think you may not understand clearly that my engagement with Niuniu has not been terminated. Mo Zhangxiang was stunned for a moment, then put on an apologetic smile. Sorry, Mr. N, I didn't know that your engagement with Chu Xiaoxiao has not been terminated. This is a family matter, and outsiders naturally don't know it. If someone from the Sun family is asking Secretary Mo, then please ask Secretary Mo to tell the Sun family that Niuniu is the grandson's daughter-in-law recognized by the old man personally, and it will be officially announced soon, and Nangsuan said with a dark face. Okay. And Nangsuan listened to her words and left with a dark face. Mo Zhangxiang looked at the leaving figure, smiled slightly, turned around and entered his room. Back, Momo. A deep man's voice sounded in the hall. The blood in Mo Zhangxiang's body froze the moment he heard the sound. His little face turned bloodless in a second. His pupils dilated, spread and then converged. The fear in the black pupils could not be concealed. Momo, you're not good, I've been looking for you for a long time. The man stood up with his tall and graceful body and approached the woman step by step. Mo Zhangxiang instinctively wanted to run away, but before she could even step away, her body was fixed. The unique smell of men entered her breath, and she said in a trembling voice, You. What's wrong with me, Momo? I was sad for a long time when I heard that you were bought. There was no trace of sadness in the man's voice. Don't forget, it was you who put the price on me and sent me to the stage. Mo Zhangxiang spoke to her with red eyes. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 245. Chapter 245. Chapter 245. Do you believe it? But, I regret it. The man played with her hair and whispered softly in her ear. Mo Zhangxiang shook his body, clenched his small hands hanging at his sides into fists, bit his lip and asked him, So, what do you want to do now? Ha! The man chuckled softly, Momo, don't be afraid, I won't take you back, relax. Mo Zhangxiang bit his lip, his eyes red. Since you didn't take me back, why did you come here? Miss you. The man's voice was rustling, revealing her attachment. Mo Zhangxiang lowered his eyes, and the shadows of his eyelashes fell, covering his red eyes. Su Yuan's, we are enemies. I know. The man leaned on her shoulder with his eyes closed, his hands around her waist, his expression relaxed. I will kill you, Mo Zhangxiang said lightly. I know, Momo is so sleepy. She hasn't slept well recently. I can't sleep without you, the man said coquettishly. Mo Zhangxiang closed his eyes with pain in his eyes and said in a hoarse voice, Go to the room to sleep, I will accompany you. Okay. The man hugged her into the room in a happy mood. Zhang Xiao returned to her room angrily, feeling resentful of her boss for leaving her on the roadside. Fu Chenxiu entered Zhang Xiao's room less than 5 minutes after he entered her room, holding iota 4 in his hand. He raised his eyes and stared at her, saying in a low voice, "Uncle Wu, that's wrong." Zhang Xiaomao looked at Fu Chenxiu with round eyes in disbelief. He had apologized to her in the car just now, but then he had such an attitude that she ignored him. Now he apologized to her again, and the anger in her heart disappeared instantly. More than half of it. Fu Chenxiu walked over, squatted down next to her, rolled up her trousers with his fingers, frowned at the scratches on her feet, and gently disinfected them with iodine. While treating the wounds, he talked to her, "Uncle Wu, it's official, I apologize to you, I shouldn't have left you on the side of the road, you can vent your anger whenever you want." Zhang Xiao opened her pink lips slightly and swallowed, her expression was shocked. For a moment, she didn't know how to answer the boss. "Child, if Uncle Wu told you that Uncle Wu left you in the middle of the road because he was afraid of hearing your answer, would you believe it?" Fu Chenxiu gently helped her treat the wound. "Jiangxi. When I was young, Uncle Wu could lose everything, but he couldn't lose you. Uncle Wu was timid in front of me. Jiangxi. When I was young, seeing you injured was like taking a knife and stabbing Uncle Wu in the heart. I felt extremely regretful for leaving you on the road. Uncle Wu gave you time to think. Uncle Wu hoped that it would be the answer that Uncle Wu wanted to hear. I didn't say it. How do you know what I want to say?" Zhang Xiao asked dryly. Fu Chenxiu raised his eyes, his dark eyes were like a black whirlpool, trying to Zhang Xiaoxi into it. "Xiaoxi, my fifth uncle has lived with you for 10 years. Zhang Xiaoxiao curled his lips and said secretly, "Even if you have lived with Baiyu Eguang for 10 years, why don't you understand Baiyu Eguang and kill Baiyu Eguang?" Of course, this was just what he said in his heart. Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't have the courage. Speaking of which, if the boss knew that she came from time travel, he would probably let Guanyang use her as a test subject. She felt terrible just thinking about it. "I didn't want to take the exam in the first place," Zhang Xiao said softly. Fu Chenxiu stared at her. "You know I want to take the forensic medicine department." Zhang Xiao curled his lips. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 246. Chapter 246. Chapter 246. The mind is smaller than a needle. I know. Fu Chenxiu's lips curled up slightly. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at the boss's face, his cheeks turned red unnaturally. "Give me some time to think." "Okay." Fu Chenxiu stared at her with soft eyes, and the smile on his lips deepened. Zhang Xiao blinked her eyes. Didn't she just say she was thinking about it? As for being so happy? But why am I also happy in my heart? "Fifth uncle, I'm going to dance with Yi 11 tomorrow." Zhang Xiao said this without knowing she was there. She regretted it as soon as she said it and stared at the boss nervously. Fu Chenxiu's smile subsided and his eyebrows tightened. When Zhang Xiaoxiao's smile faded from the corner of the boss's mouth, her heart was raised in her throat. She regretted speaking out countless times in her heart. She would never be able to see her idol now. Just when she was feeling discouraged, the boss said, "I'll go with you." Zhang Xiaoxiao agreed. The boss actually agreed. She thought there was no chance. He was so surprised that Zhang Xiao was stunned, and his eyes changed when he looked at the boss. "What's wrong?" "I don't want Uncle Wu to accompany you." The boss touched the top of her head. Zhang Xiao stared at him in confusion. After a long time, he finally recovered and said, "Uncle Wu, aren't you angry? Whatever you like, Uncle Wu will not stop you in the future, but the premise is that you can't leave me." Fu Chenxiu's words were domineering, but he was not as coercive as before. "Okay." Zhang Xiao agreed obediently. The next day. Zhao Huiyan looked at the people who appeared in the studio and couldn't calm down. She pulled Zhang Xiaoxi aside and asked in a low voice, "Xiao Xiao, is this what you said someone sent you?" Yeah, Zhang Xiao nodded. "I told my fifth uncle yesterday, and he said he would come with me." "Uncle Zhao, is Yi 11 here?" Zhao Huiyan's nerves were still tense, and her peach blossom eyes occasionally looked in the direction of Fu Jianxiu, and she asked guiltily, "When you were little, you didn't tell your fifth uncle that I asked you to come here, right?" "No, but Uncle Zhao and Uncle Wu are so smart that they can guess that you asked me to come," Zhang Xiaoxiao said honestly. These words shattered Zhao Huiyan's lucky heart. He could feel that he was about to be retaliated. Someone's mind was smaller than the eye of a needle when it came to issues involving Zhang Xiaoxi. Before he could recover, the people around him had disappeared. When he came to his senses, he saw Zhang Xiaoxiao's eyes filled with the shyness of a little fangirl, her cheeks red, standing beside Yi 11. In front of him, "Idol, we meet again." "Well, I have to trouble you today," Yi 11 smiled softly. Zhang Shi felt like she was going to be deprived of oxygen. The idol smiled at her. Oh my God, she wanted to scream. If she didn't want to show that she was too unreserved in front of the idol, she would have screamed loudly and replied shyly, no trouble at all. I'll ask my assistant to take you to change clothes and put on makeup." Okay, Zhang Xiaoxi wanted to be completely immersed in the voice of his subwoofer, and he wanted to be a nymphomaniac. Soon the assistant appeared next to Zhang Shi. "Zhang Shi, please come with me." Okay, Zhang Xiao followed the assistant with his heart beating fast. Zhao Huiyan cautiously stayed with someone who was exuding cold air. "Boss, what's that?" Yi 11 is suitable for both men and women, young and old. It's normal to like her when you were young. Well, those who are taller are more marketable than you. Fu Jianxiu sat there with a cold face and waited for Zhang Xiao, but his eyes were always fixed on Yi 11. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 247. Chapter 247. Chapter 247. He is too difficult. Why is Zhao Huiyan always the one who gets hurt? It's so difficult for him. After all, he has over 100 million fans and is now a popular idol. "Boss, this is the content to be shot today." Zhao Huiyan quickly handed over the content, so that if there was anything wrong, he would know as soon as possible. This video was shot mainly about the growth of a rock boy in music, and a little affection developed between him and a girl who is learning jazz dance. There are no intimate scenes in it, most of them are dancing scenes, but there is a lot of eye contact. Fu Jianxiu looked at what was to be filmed in the script without revealing a single word. When he saw what was written on it, his fingertips brushed her cheek slightly, his eyebrows lowered, and he said, "Change this." Zhao Huiyan, he knows that someone's mind is smaller than the eye of a needle, but he is not an investor and has no right to change the content. "Boss, I think this is more than nothing. Compared with kissing, this is nothing." Fu Jianxiu raised his cold eyes slightly, stared at Zhao Huiyan faintly, and opened his thin lips up and down. "Are you sure?" Zhao Huiyan stood up resignedly. I'll find the director. Tell him that Fu will pay for all the money for this shooting," Fu Jianxiu said. Okay, Zhao Huiyan originally planned to fund the project if the director didn't agree, but now it seems there's no need to bother. Zhao Huiyan went to find the director. Zhang Xiaoxiao had already changed clothes and came out. The girl was wearing black overalls, a black t-shirt, and a small smoky makeup on her face. At first glance, she looked like a dark fairy. "Ms. Zhang, you will stand there and dance the dance I just showed you inside." The assistant still had a video of the dance on his phone and pointed to the stage set up in the studio. Okay, Zhang Xiaoxiao was still desperately memorizing the movements in the video, and asked his assistant, "Sister Lan, can I go and practice next to you?" "Okay, I should have let you practice in advance, but this dance was just choreographed yesterday, so I'm a little pressed for time. Then I'll go. Zhang Xiaoxiao took her mobile phone and ran in the direction of Fu Chenxiu. Uncle Wu, hold the mobile phone for me. I want to watch the video and learn to dance. Fu Chenxiu looked at the little girl with exquisite makeup and immediately regretted letting her come here to accompany the dancers, but he still helped her hold the mobile phone and used it as a human body stand. Zhang Xiaoxiao asked Fu Chenxiu to hold the phone because there was a mirror where he was sitting so she could watch and dance. As soon as the music started, Zhang Xiaoxi changed into a new person and immediately got into the mood and danced to the rhythm. I have to say that Zhang Xiao has a very good memory and a strong learning ability, but he can't keep up with the rhythm. Fu Chenxiu looked at someone dancing in front of him and had only one idea: hide her and only dance for him. People watch. Zhang Xiao was dancing very seriously and didn't notice that Fu Chenxiu's eyes had changed. It wasn't until a burst of applause rang that Zhang Xiao stopped dancing, panting slightly, his sweat-wet hair sticking to his face, with a shy smile on his face. He looked at Yi 11, if you don't dance well, will it affect you? Shoot. He danced very well. Didn't you see that everyone in the studio was stunned? Yi 11 pointed at the people in the studio. Zhang Xiao smiled sheepishly and asked, are we going to start filming now? End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 248. Chapter 248. Chapter 248. Try scolding her. Well, you come with me. Zhang Xiaoxi was simply fascinated by the gentle voice of his idol, shyly and obediently following behind him at a distance. Fu Chenxiu frowned and stared at someone without saying anything. Zhang Xiao followed Yi 11 to the first shooting scene. The first scene was a girl performing on the street. A boy passing by with a guitar was attracted by the girl's dancing. Zhang Xiao stood on the balcony and looked at the people around him. He inevitably felt a little nervous and kept breathing to adjust his state. Director, ready to begin. Zhang Xiao started dancing as soon as he heard the music. Within a few dozen seconds, the director called him to stop. Little girl, you have to have some expression when you dance. Zhangxi. When you were young, be confident and have a confident expression on your face, Zhao Huiyan taught from the side. Zhang Xiaoxiao looked at Zhao Huiyan in confusion, trying his best to understand what he meant. Director, here comes one. The music started playing again, and Zhang Xiao started dancing again. Still within a few dozen seconds, the director called out, and there was a faint tendency to get angry. Actor Zhao has told you to be more confident, do you understand confidence? Zhang Xiao stood there with a blushing face, a little at a loss. This director is famous for his bad temper, but the things he produces are absolutely top-notch, so the staff did not dare to speak out when they heard him scolding Zhang. Director, let's do it again. Zhang Xiao was scolded by the director. This time she danced wrongly when she started dancing 4 to 8 beats. Before the director scolded her, she even shrank her neck in embarrassment. Little girl, you have to imagine that you are the brightest kid on this street. Okay, the director wanted to get angry, but before he could get angry, the surrounding air was as cold as winter, and a cold voice came into his ears in a low tone. Pen, you're scolding her, try it. The other directors may not know each other, but he definitely knows Fu Chenxiu. They are the powerful people at the top of Ruchin. These are the people they have engraved in their hearts and remember not to offend. Looking at Zhang Xiaoxi, Yi 11's eyes became complicated. Yi 11 insisted on using his own people. He originally thought she was someone related to him, but this little girl's background was something he never expected. She was actually related to Fu Chenxiu. Zhang Xiao looked at the people in the audience with jealousy, she wanted to shrink back. Xiao Xiao, I'm dancing below, you dance with me. Yi 11 put the guitar aside, stood in front of Zhang Xiao, and then gestured to the music player next to him. The music started, and Yi 11 started to dance along with the music. Zhang Xiaoxiao watched him dance slowly and started dancing along with him, dancing with his idol. He was in a happy mood, and the timidity he had just danced away. The director watched the scene and had a flash of inspiration. He used the camera to capture a video of the two dancing until the music stopped. The director looked at the two of them with satisfaction. "Little girl, if you had danced like this earlier, I wouldn't be angry with you." Zhang Xiao smiled apologetically. "Okay, let's take the next shot." The director happily changed the location. The next scene is where the girl gets injured while dancing and the boy carries her home on his back, a turning point in the relationship between the two. Ada was about to carry him. Zhang Xiaoxi's heart was beating rapidly, and the excitement on his face was beyond words. Fu Chenxiao frowned and stared coldly at Zhao Huiyan, because this paragraph was not in the script, so it was obviously just added. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 249. Chapter 249. Chapter 249. Poor acting. Zhao Huiyan said that he was very innocent. After receiving Fu Chenxiao's death gaze, all he could do was ask the director, "Lao Wang, this part is not in the script." The director answered him with a smile, "Old Zhao, didn't you say there's nothing interesting about running your fingertips across your cheeks? I just want to do it like my back, wouldn't it be interesting?" Zhao Huiyan. "Old Zhao, what's wrong with you? Why do you look so ugly? If you feel uncomfortable, go back early," the director asked him very concernedly. Zhao Huiyan, "What does it feel like to have a teammate who is like a god?" "Old Zhao, who is that little girl? What is her relationship with Fu Chenxiao?" As he spoke, the director glanced in Fu Chenxiao's direction. "That's his wife," Zhao Huiyan sneered. The director suddenly stared at the boss, pulling Zhao Huiyan with a look of horror on his face, lowering his voice with a slight tremor, "Old Zhao, are you kidding me? That girl looks like she's still underage. I'm an adult, do I look like I'm kidding you?" Zhao Huiyan looked at the director seriously. The director swallowed his throat nervously, and cold sweat broke out on his back. "Old Zhao, how come you haven't heard anything about this? Now you let his wife be carried by someone else. Lao Wang, you said you have filmed so many TV series, you know better than me how terrible it is for men to be jealous." The director turned to stone, then rolled his eyes, supported Zhao Huiyan's body, and lay on the ground, twitching all over. Zhao Huiyan's eyes twitched as she looked at someone lying on the ground, blinking at him, and his poor acting skills. "Old Wang, what's wrong with you? Why did you faint?" "The medical team is coming quickly," the director fainted. The people from the medical team hurried over, put the director on a stretcher, and took him to the hospital. Because the director fainted, the shooting scene was in chaos. The assistant director walked up to Zhang Xiaoxi and Yi 11 and said, "I'm sorry, I'm afraid the shooting will be postponed." Zhang Xiao didn't care. After all, she was an idler and could be free at any time. But Yi 11 is different. He is a popular star and needs a schedule, so he negotiates with his agent to get a schedule next time. Before leaving, I told Zhang Xiaoxiao, "See you next time for filming." Zhang Xiao nodded in agreement. "Go back." Fu Chenxiao was already standing behind Zhang Xiaoxi at some point, holding her waist with one hand. Although Zhang Xiaoxiao was disappointed that he was not betrayed by his idol, he also knew that there was nothing he could do about it. Naturally, he followed the boss back obediently. "Uncle Wu, is the director okay?" "It's okay, he won't die." The medical team provided immediate rescue, Fu Chenxiao replied coldly, holding Zhang Xiao's hand and leaving the shooting scene. As soon as Fu Chenxiao's car left the shooting scene, the director, who was supposed to be in the ambulance, appeared on the scene alive and energetic. what to do, shoot, continue. Everyone who was ready to call it a day. Director, the heroine has just left. Do you want us to call back a certain assistant? The director patted his head with his hand and said, I'm going to die. Do you think I've lived too long? The content of the filming has changed, and movie Emperor Zhao has replaced the heroine. Everyone. Is the director trying to follow the beauty trend? They are afraid of being raped by fans of both families. What are you doing standing around? Get ready quickly. The director was afraid that if Zhao Huiyan ran away, then today's filming would really be impossible, so he urged them. End of this chapter. After wearing the book, I became the group favorite. Author, Little Ginger. Chapter 250. Chapter 250. Chapter 250. Don't pry about things you shouldn't pry about. Zhao Huiyan would not run away, because he could not let Zhang Xiaoxiao come back to shoot. He had to help clean up this mess no matter what, so as not to offend someone. Old Wang, you owe me a big favor this time. Zhao Huiyan looked at the director shamelessly. The director held his hand with tears of gratitude. Old Zhao, it's a good thing you reminded me, otherwise I might not be able to survive in Ruchin if I offended Fujian Xiu. You're welcome, you're welcome. Zhao Huiyan accepted his gratitude shamelessly. Old Zhao, but I feel like I've seen that little girl just now somewhere. The director scratched his bald head, but didn't realize who the person was just now. Zhao Huiyan raised her peach blossom eyes, patted him on the shoulder, and reminded him kindly, Old Wang, don't pry if you shouldn't pry. If you know too much, be careful if you encounter ghosts at night. The director's face froze, and he wished he could take back what he just said. Old Zhao, I understand, I understand. Lao Wang, I just like talking to smart people like you. Zhao Huiyan smiled and hooked up with the director. Zhang Xiao was sitting in Fujian Xiu's car, yawning sleepily, playing with his phone and scrolling through Weibo. Do you happy today? Zhang Xiao raised his eyes and looked at the boss's profile, and answered truthfully, happy. Want to be a star? Zhang Xiao looked at the boss in confusion. He didn't understand why the boss would ask him such a question. Could it be that he had another convulsion? If you like it, let your uncle Zhao take you out. Zhang Shi. Fifth uncle, what's wrong with you? The big man's sudden appearance and his clueless words frightened her. Fujian Xiu looked forward, his handsome face as cold as ever. Dancing makes you happy, I want you to be so happy every day. The boss's answer made Zhang Xiaoxiao breathe a sigh of relief. She had been scared to death just now. She thought the boss was going to have another attack, so she answered seriously, Uncle Wu, I don't want to be a star. I'm happy because I see you to the idol. Like him very much. Yeah, I like it very much. After Zhang Xiao answered, someone's face changed and turned dark. This kind of love is just the fan's admiration for the idol. It is not mixed with anything else. It is pure appreciation. Zhang Xiao began to explain before he saw someone's face change. I remember that I was the one you admired most when you were a child, Fujian Xiu said sourly. Zhang Xiaoxi. Bai Yueguang once said, it's not her. I still admire you, fifth uncle, but it's a completely different kind of worship than Yi 11's, Zhang Xiaoxi said flatteringly. He Fujian Xiu sneered. Zhang Xiao looked at her phone with a guilty conscience. The page was being refreshed. The latest headlines shocked her. Hashtag Chuan's two major families get married. Hashtag. Before Zhang Shi could digest the news, the latest push came up. Ife's by denying the marriage between the two families. Hashtag. Followed by another message. 2 by the President Chen's announcement that he is pursuing the daughter of the Chu family. Hashtag. Zhang Xiao was completely frightened by these three hot searches and couldn't digest them for a long time. What is going on? Shouldn't Chu Hanyu be taking an exam in school right now? Also, hasn't An Nangxuan already gone to the Chu family to cancel the engagement? Why is the marriage certificate published again now? Fifth uncle, does uncle unlike Hanyu? Zhang Xiaoxiao didn't know Chu Hanyu CPS. Now that there are two CPS, she hopes Chu Hanyu is happy, so she can only help ask. I don't know, Fu Xiu answered her in a deep voice. Zhang Shi. End of this chapter.